Maidei was a young woman from a small village in Zimbabwe. Her family struggled with poverty, and each day was a battle to make ends meet. Maidei longed for wealth, believing money would bring happiness and ease her family's suffering. She wished for a miracle to change her fate, and often spent her nights dreaming of a life where they would never have to worry about food or shelter again. The constant toil and the look of despair on her parents' faces fueled her desperation. She wanted to see her siblings play without worrying about their next meal. Maidei's dreams were filled with visions of abundance and joy, and she clung to these dreams with a fierce hope. One day, while helping her mother at the market, she overheard whispers about a powerful witch doctor in a neighboring village. The stories told of miracles and transformations that sounded too good to be true. Intrigued and desperate, Maidei decided to seek out this mysterious figure. She believed that if anyone could help her achieve her dreams, it would be this enigmatic witch doctor. Thus, Maidei's journey began, driven by a hope that would lead her down to a path she could never have imagined. One evening, while fetching water from the river, Maidei saw an old woman with piercing eyes and an air of mystery. The woman was unlike anyone Maidei had ever seen. Dressed in layers of colorful flowing garments adorned with beads and shells, she seemed to blend into the twilight shadows. Maidei felt both drawn to and frightened by her presence. The old woman introduced herself as Gogochisara, a renowned witch doctor known for her powerful magic. Her voice was deep and resonant, carrying an authority that made Maidei's heart race. Gogochisara seemed to know why Maidei had come before her. "You seek a better life," she said, her eyes boring into Maidei's soul. Maidei, desperate and hopeful, poured out her heart, explaining her family's plight and her desire for wealth. Gogochisara listened intently, her face unreadable. After a long silence, she finally spoke. "I can help you," she said, "but every gift comes with a price. Are you prepared to pay it?" Maidei, blinded by her longing for a different life, agreed without hesitation. She believed any price would be worth the prosperity she craved. Little did she know, the cost would be far greater than anything she could ever have imagined. Under the cover of darkness, Gogochisara led Maidei to a secluded clearing in the forest. The moonlight filtered through the trees, casting eerie shadows on the ground. The witch doctor began to prepare ointment with a mixture of herbs, roots, and other mysterious ingredients, chanting incantations in a language Maidei did not understand. The atmosphere was charged with a strange energy, making Maidei's skin prickle with anticipation and fear. As the ritual progressed, Gogochisara smeared the ointment on Maidei's face. Her touch was cold and deliberate. Maidei felt a strange sensation wash over her, a mix of warmth and tingling that spread from her face to the rest of her body. She could feel the power of the ointment seeping into her skin, filling her with a sense of hope and dread. The witch doctor's incantations grew louder, echoing through the forest like a haunting melody. Maidei closed her eyes, trying to focus on her dreams of wealth and prosperity, but a nagging doubt lingered in the back of her mind. What was the price she would have to pay? With the ritual complete, Gogochisara handed Maidei a small wooden box. "Keep this with you," she instructed. It will protect you and ensure the money comes. But remember, the price must be paid. She also gave my day some ointment and instructed her to use it every night. My day nodded, clutching the box and ointment tightly as she made her way back home, her heart heavy with a mixture of excitement and fear. The next morning, my day woke up to an astonishing sight. Piles of money lay in the corner of her house, more than she had ever seen in her life. Her heart raced with joy and disbelief. She rushed to wake her family up, and they all stared in awe at the sudden fortune. They couldn't believe their eyes and praised my day, thinking their prayers had finally been answered. My day's joy was overwhelming. She could now afford everything she had ever dreamt of: expensive clothes, abundant food, and comforts she had only imagined. The village buzzed with rumors of their sudden wealth, and people began to regard my day with admiration and envy. She became the talk of the village, hailed as a blessing. However, deep down, my day couldn't shake off the nagging feeling that something was amiss. Every night, the memory of Gogo Chisara's warning crept back into her mind, but she pushed it aside, too elated by her newfound prosperity to dwell on it. Every morning she woke up to find that more money had appeared, reaffirming her belief that she had done the right thing. Yet, the price of her wealth was about to reveal itself in the most unexpected and horrifying way. As night descended, my day felt an unease growing within her. The air in her room grew heavy, and she heard a faint hissing sound that sent shivers down her spine. She turned to see a large, menacing snake slithering into her room. Her heart pounded in her chest as the serpent coiled itself in the corner, its eyes gleaming with a sinister intelligence. The serpent spoke, its voice a low, menacing whisper. "You have received your wealth," it hissed. "Now you must fulfill your end of the bargain." My day's blood ran cold as she realized the true cost of the witch doctor's warning. The serpent revealed its demands, making it clear that in order to maintain the flow of money, she had to submit to its desires. My day recoiled in horror, unable to fathom the grotesque nature of the price she had to pay. But the serpent's presence was overpowering, and she felt trapped. Terrified and repulsed, my day had no choice but to comply. The experience was nightmarish, leaving her shaken and disgusted. As the serpent slithered away, she felt an overwhelming sense of violation and shame. The money she had longed for now seemed tainted, and she rationalized that it was a necessary sacrifice for her family's prosperity. The next morning, the money appeared, confirming that her grim bargain was working. But the cost of her wealth had only just begun to reveal its true colors. The serpent's visits became more frequent, and my day's spirit withered under its oppressive presence. Each night, she felt a growing dread as the serpent slithered into her room, its demands becoming increasingly grotesque and humiliating. The once joyful anticipation of waking up to piles of money was now overshadowed by the fear and revulsion she felt every night. My day's health began to deteriorate, both mentally and physically. She became withdrawn and anxious, avoiding her family and friends. Her once radiant beauty faded, replaced by a haunted look that spoke of her inner torment. Her family, concerned for her well-being, tried to reach out to her, but my day's silence only deepened their worries. Despite the suffering, My day continued to apply the ointment each night, trapped in a cycle of abuse and wealth. She feared the consequences of stopping, knowing the serpent's wrath would be unimaginable. Her dreams of a better life had turned into a nightmare from which she could not escape. My day's newfound wealth transformed her life, but the joy it once brought was overshadowed by the nightly visits from the serpent. She could afford luxurious clothes, abundant food, and comforts she had never imagined, but the cost of these luxuries was becoming unbearable. The once cheerful and lively girl was now a shadow of her former self, her spirit crushed under the weight of her secret. Each night, as the serpent slithered into her room, my day's dread grew. The encounters were more than just physical torment. They were a constant reminder of the price she had willingly paid for her wealth. The serpent's demand became increasingly degrading, stripping my day of her dignity and self-worth. Despite her suffering, my day felt trapped. She feared that stopping the ritual would not only bring an end to the money, but also incur the serpent's wrath. The money continued to appear every morning, a taunting reminder of her ongoing torment. The villagers, unaware of her plight, continued to admire and envy her apparent fortune, but my day knew that her prosperity came at a cost far too high. The duality of her life, a facade of wealth and happiness by day, and a nightmare of abuse by night, was tearing her apart. My day began to question whether the wealth was worth the suffering, but she felt powerless to change her fate. Her dreams of a better life had turned into a living nightmare from which she could not escape. My day's family began to notice the changes in her demeanor. She became withdrawn and anxious, avoiding their questions about the source of their wealth. Her mother, concerned for her well-being, pressed her for answers. My day's silence only deepened their worries, and her mother's eyes filled with a mix of fear and concern. One evening, her young brother, Bobo, found her sitting alone, staring blankly at the piles of money. "My day," he whispered. "What's wrong? Where is all this money coming from?" His innocent eyes searched hers for an answer. My day wanted to confide in him, to unburden herself of the dark secret she carried. But she knew the truth would only bring more pain and fear for her family. She forced a smile and lied. "Don't worry, Bobo. Everything is fine. The money is a blessing from the ancestors." Her family, though relieved by her words, could not shake off the growing suspicion. My day's mother, especially, sensed that something was terribly wrong. She began to observe my day more closely, noticing her daughter's pallor and haunted look in her eyes. Despite the wealth, a shadow hung over their home. My day's parents whispered late into the night, trying to make sense of the changes in their daughter. The villagers' gossip and rumors added to their anxiety, but they remained in the dark about the true nature of my day's suffering. The growing suspicion and tension within her family only added to my day's torment. She felt isolated, trapped, unable to share her burden with those she loved the most. The price of her wealth was not only her own suffering, but also the growing rift between her and her family. The villagers, once envious of my day's fortune, started to whisper rumors of dark magic and witchcraft as they noticed her pallor and her haunted look. Some believed she had made a pact with the devil. My day felt the weight of their suspicion, but was trapped in her agreement with the serpent. As the rumors spread, my day became a figure of both fascination and fear. Children pointed at her, and adults whispered behind her back. The villagers' suspicion grew, and some even avoided her, afraid that her curse might be contagious. The isolation added to my day's misery, making her feel more trapped and alone. Her closest friends distanced themselves, their eyes filled with a mix of pity and fear. My day's attempts to maintain a semblance of normalcy were futile as the villagers' whispers grew louder. She became a pariah, shunned by those who once welcomed her with open arms. One evening, as my day walked through the village, she overheard a group of women talking in hushed tones. "I heard she visits the witch doctor every night," one woman said. "They say she made a deal with a demon for her wealth," another added. My day's heart sank as she realized the extent of the villagers' fear and suspicion. She quickened her pace, desperate to escape their prying eyes and harsh words. The once vibrant village, filled with laughter and camaraderie, had turned into a place of judgment and isolation for her. The village whispers only deepened my day's sense of despair. She was trapped in a nightmare of her own making, unable to escape the serpent's grasp and the villagers' suspicion. The price of her wealth was becoming unbearable, and my day began to wonder if she would ever find a way out of the darkness that had consumed her. My day's mental and physical health deteriorated as the serpent's visit took a toll on her. She felt trapped in a cycle of abuse and wealth, unable to escape. The joy that money once brought her faded and was replaced by a growing dread. She began to question whether the wealth was worth the suffering. Her nights were filled with terror, and her days were spent in a fog of exhaustion and anxiety. The once vibrant and hopeful girl was now a shell of her former self. The serpent's demands grew more brutal, and my day's spirit withered under its oppressive presence. My day's family, still unaware of the true nature of her suffering, watched helplessly as she spiraled into despair. Her mother often found her staring blankly at the walls, her eyes hollow and devoid of life. Her father, once proud of his daughter's success, now felt a growing sense of unease and guilt. Despite her suffering, my day continued to apply the ointment each night, fearing the consequences of stopping. The money continued to appear every morning, a cruel reminder of the price she was paying. My day's dreams of a better life had turned into a nightmare from which she could not escape. The wealth she had longed for had become a curse, and the serpent's grip on her life was tightening with each passing day. She began to lose hope, believing that she was doomed to suffer for her choices. Amid her despair, my day found solace in the company of a kind young man named Tendai. He was unaware of her dark secret, but sensed her pain. As their bond deepened, my day felt a glimmer of hope, but she knew her relationship with Tendai was threatened by the serpent's control. Tendai was a gentle and caring man. He offered my day a glimpse of the love and kindness she had been missing. He listened to her, comforted her, and made her feel valued. My day cherished their time together, but the fear of the serpent's wrath loomed over her. As their relationship blossomed, Tendai began to notice the changes in my day. He saw fear in her eyes, the exhaustion that plagued her, and the sadness that weighed on her heart. He tried to help, but my day's silence and evasiveness frustrated him. One evening, as they sat by the river, Tendai took my day's hand and looked deep into her eyes. "My day, I care for you deeply. I see your pain. I want to help. Please let me in. Tell me what's troubling you." Maiday's heart ached with the desire to confide in Tendai, but she knew the truth would only endanger him. She shook her head, tears welling up in her eyes. Tendai, you wouldn't understand. It's something I have to bear alone. Tendai's face hardened with determination. You don't have to bear it alone. Whatever it is, we will face it together, he said. Maiday's resolve wavered, but the serpent's warning echoed in her mind. She couldn't risk Tendai's safety. With a heavy heart, she pulled away from him, leaving him confused and hurt. Maiday's love for Tendai was a forbidden light in the darkness of her life, but she feared that light would be extinguished by the serpent's shadow. The serpent grew jealous of Maiday's affection for Tendai and warned her against seeing him. Maiday's defiance only fueled the serpent's rage. It punished her with more frequent and brutal encounters, leaving her broken and despondent. The price of her wealth was becoming truly unbearable. Despite her suffering, Maiday continued to see Tendai, seeking solace in his presence. Their secret meetings became a lifeline for her, a brief respite from the nightmare that consumed her life. But the serpent's wrath loomed over her, a constant threat to her happiness. One night, after a particularly brutal encounter with the serpent, Maiday lay in her bed, broken and defeated. The serpent's word echoed in her mind, a chilling reminder of the price she was paying for her wealth. You belong to me, it hissed. Your wealth is my gift, and your suffering is my pleasure. As the serpent slithered away, Maiday's resolve hardened. She knew she had to find a way to break free from its grasp. But the path to freedom seemed impossible. The price of her wealth was becoming unbearable, and Maiday began to lose hope. Despite her suffering, Maiday discovered a hidden strength within herself. She began to find a way to break free from the serpent's hold. She was afraid to go back to Gogochisara. She started to look for ways of ending the serpent's hold over her by herself. Her determination grew, fueled by her love for Tendai and the desire to reclaim her life. Maiday spent her days poring over old texts and consulting with elders. She learned about powerful rituals and protective charms, hoping to find a way to sever the bond with the serpent. Her quest for knowledge became an obsession, driving her to the brink of exhaustion. Tendai, unaware of the true nature of Maiday's struggle, supported her in any way he could. He brought her food, helped her with her research, and provided a shoulder to lean on. His unwavering support gave Maiday the strength to continue her fight. One evening, as Maiday studied a particular book, she stumbled upon a ritual that promised to break bonds with the dark spirits. The ritual was dangerous and required immense courage and sacrifice, but Maiday knew it was her only hope. With the ritual in mind, Maiday began to gather the necessary ingredients. She collected herbs, roots, and other mysterious substances, preparing herself for the final confrontation with the serpent. Her determination grew stronger with each passing day, fueled by her love for Tendai and the desire to reclaim her life. Maiday knew that confronting the serpent would require immense courage and sacrifice. She prepared herself for the battle that would determine her fate. As the night of reckoning approached, Maiday steeled herself for the ultimate sacrifice, ready to face the serpent and reclaim her life. On the night of the ritual, Maiday and Tendai made their way to the secluded clearing in the forest where her ordeal had begun. The moonlight filtered through the trees, casting eerie shadows on the ground. Maiday's heart pounded with a mix of fear and determination. Tendai held her hand, his presence a source of strength and comfort. "We will face this together," he said, his voice steady and reassuring. Maidei nodded, her resolve unwavering. She began the ritual, chanting the incantations she had learned and performing the necessary gestures. The air grew heavy with a strange energy, and Maidei felt the power of the ritual building around her. As the ritual reached its climax, the serpent appeared, its eyes gleaming with a sinister intelligence. It hissed in anger, sensing the threat to its control. Maidei stood her ground, her voice strong and unwavering. "You no longer have power over me," she declared, her voice echoing through the clearing. "I break the bond that binds me to you." The serpent lunged at Maidei, but she held up a protective charm, warding it off. The air crackled with energy as the serpent writhed in pain, its power waning. Maidei felt a surge of strength and determination, knowing that she was finally breaking free. The serpent's final, desperate lunge was met with a blinding flash of light. When the light faded, the serpent was gone. Maidei felt an overwhelming sense of relief and freedom. The bond was broken, and she was free. Maidei collapsed to the ground, exhausted but triumphant. Tendai rushed to her side, his eyes filled with awe and admiration. "You did it," he whispered, holding her close. Maidei smiled, her heart filled with hope and joy. The price of her wealth had been immense, but she had finally reclaimed her life. With Tendai by her side, she knew she could face whatever challenges lay ahead. The journey was far from over, but Maidei was ready to embrace the future with courage and determination.